What's going zone? It's your man Hanz Nobe. This is Hanz Nobe Vlog episode 2. And yes, I really am wearing the same shirt I wore yesterday. It is what it is. I'm putting in work. Today, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about myself. Is cool, but I don't like to come across boastful or self-absorbed or whatever, so let's go ahead and start. Like I said before in the previous episode, I'm originally from Houston, West Side to be exact. I fell in love with music when I was in Detroit with my pops, and I guess to kind of give you like the whole story. Back then, in this is what I'm really about to show my age. This is 2001 to 2002. I decided to stay with my pops for a year, and so stayed in Detroit. This is like my second year in the D, and he sent me to a school called Bishop Borges off of Plymouth, which no longer is open because of the recession. It closed. It was a private school. When I was there, I used to hang out with this girl. Well, my homegirl, her name was Tanisha. Tanisha was like this. She was a sophomore in high school, but she was, I think, 13, like 12 or 13, something like that. But she was already like a sophomore. She had skipped like a grade or two. And Tanisha was like mad cool. She was like 13 going on 30. I used to go around school at times saying these punchlines. It would be like, sometimes they'd be corny, sometimes they would be on point, but I would always say these punchlines. One day we're sitting in Miss Cecil's class, and she said, yo, if you're always saying these punchlines, why don't you just start writing rhymes? So that's what I did. I started writing rhymes that day. By the end of that night, because I started around lunch period, by the end of the night I had like 27 different songs in my little spotter pad. And then I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know I could do this. Always wrote like all the time. And this is before like, we're talking about like 01, 02, so it's not like I had like a SoundCloud or social media or anything like that. I just did it because I like doing it, and I did it all the time. And so when I moved back to Houston that next year, I think my mom's found my notepad on one of my notepads because she was asking if I was doing homework, and she looked over and she saw like, you know, she was like, why, like are your notes wrong? It was cool showing her that then, because what she let me know was that writing runs in the family. My grandmother was a poet. My mother was like a big poet back in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I think she won Poet of the Year or something crazy like that, because I saw like the newspaper clipping. But of course her whole focus was like, you got to get through school. So I just did it, and then I came across these guys, another guy from Detroit as well, and we started a group, because there were like certain sets in high school that you had to rhyme against. Like there was one, like no joke, this chick, she was a lesbian chick, but she was butch. She challenged, I want to say, my boy Brandon to spit a 16. She went first, and I think he just like stopped. He was like, nah, because she was going hard. I mean, she was going hard body, and he was like, yeah, nah. So that was our crew, man. We were just writers. We would just write, spit, freestyle or whatever. But like anytime we came to like another set, like trying to spit, like nobody had bars like that. But you know, we stuck together. That's what we did. Just to let you know where we were mentally. Everyone had their own name for their sets. Ours was, no joke, Ballistic Offspring. I'm not even making this up. That was like the name of it. We thought that was so dope. Kind of ran with it, and I went underneath the name Shinobi. I've had the name Shinobi since I was like 9 years old. You know, that was like the name I've always ran with. Happened out of it. Always wrote or whatever, and then I kind of stopped. Then I started writing again, but since I was getting older, my content got a little bit more aggressive. And so I named myself, no joke, Hostile.
Oh.
Just bear with me. So I ran with that name, and in Houston, everybody was like, "Yo, that's dope." You know what I'm saying? That's kind of fly. And so when I went back to Detroit, I was telling people, they were like, "Yo, what's your name?" I was like, Hostile. And no joke, two guys off of Finkel came up to me one time because I was riding the bus from, I want to say, the Boys and Girls Club up there. But I only remember I was on the Grand River bus coming back home, and I told somebody my name on the bus, and it said a word. Well, if you're gonna have that name, you gotta battle for it. They were like, yeah, Proof is throwing some sort of like cipher or event or something. You had to come down. And these are like two like Bizarre's homeboys out of the group D12. Supposedly. Of course, I never went, but that was like my one chance to meet Proof, and I'm kind of, in retrospect, I'm kind of mad I never took the opportunity to do it, because that dude was so influential in the city, and I had a chance to meet him, and I didn't do it. But anyway, that was where I was at with it. But I did write battle rhymes. I just couldn't come up with the rhymes on the spot. I could freestyle, but I couldn't come up with like trip on times or metaphors like right there on the spot. Anyway, came back down to Houston, Sill Road or whatever, and then graduated from high school, went to community college for 2 years, and then I transferred over to Texas State University. And that's where everything kind of like opened. There was a student organization on campus called Hip Hop Congress, and I met this dude named Tim Swain. Tim saw that I was hustling my rhymes. I would write like a verse or two for somebody and sell for like $5 to $10. And Tim was like, "Bro, if you always write rhymes, why don't you write rhymes for yourself?" So I was like, okay, I never thought about it. At that time, I was dating, or had dated, this Nigerian chick back in Houston, and I broke up with her because that kind of like the whole thing, like, I'm over here in school, you back home, you know, I don't know if we can do this long distance thing, so I wanted to break it up with her. I had about it, and this guy who was in my dorm named Justin, he was in the SRT program, the Sound Recording Technology program for Texas State, and we had the Fire Station studio, which is kind of famous because like Anthony Hamilton and Yolanda Adams used that station. He had heard through a mutual friend of ours that I was writing these rhymes all the time, so Justin gave me the CD of beats, which I know is really dating me. Like, I was like, how old is this guy? But there was one song in particular, there's one track, and I could not stop listening to it over and over and over again. So I went back to my dorm and I wrote a song talking about how I felt sorry and bad for leaving the chick that I was with, and I kept thinking about her. I didn't even know I was producing then, because he gave me the beat, but what I did was I said, this is the concept for the song. I said, nah, I need a singer. I had a friend named Daryl who was also trying to get into the SRT program. He could sing. Daryl could sing, rap, play the guitar, he could play the horns, he could produce. I mean, you name it, he could mix, you name it, he could do. He was one of those dudes that was just multi-talented for like no reason, just stupid talented. I ran from Arnold Hall all the way to what was that, Jackson Hall. I know you guys don't know what this is, but if you ever went to Texas State, you would know. Went all the way up to the 8th floor and said, "Bruh, I need you on this hook." And he was like, you know, and I literally like kept talking to him and almost pulled him literally out of the dorm, like, "Yo, I need you for this hook." Justin, you know, recorded it, mixed it, and bounced it down. And that was right around the Thanksgiving break of '06. Drove back to Houston, and I called the chick up, and she was like, "What's up?" And I put the phone to the speaker, played the song, the whole song, got on the phone with her, and she was like, "So what does that mean?" I said, like, "I want to get back with you." And she was just like, "Yeah, I don't think I want to do it anymore." And so, yeah, it didn't feel bad, but I didn't feel too bad because I discovered like a new passion of mine. And so when I got back, I scrounged up the last $30 that I had, and I went to my boy AL and I said, "Hey, you got that program that everyone's using to record music on? This is Sony Acid Pro 5, I think." That last $30, I jumped in my boy Carpel's car with my boy Rob, went down to Radio Shack, bought a $30 mic, came back, pulled one of my hangers out of my jackets or whatever, like twisted it, contorted it, put a do-rag over it to make a pop filter, and that was like my very first studio ever, and I recorded my first album. And no joke, as funny as that sounded, that's what started like the whole thing. It was a combination of my love for music and my hustle, because I always was entrepreneurial in some sense, and you know, it went from there, and haven't looked back since. I mean, I had some frustrations along the way, I did, but the cool thing about it was that I feel like this particular journey, and I'm not gonna go too like over your head or anything like that, but this journey, I feel like I was meant to be here, because it's the one vehicle I feel like has always gotten me out of bad situations. I've gone through bad breakups, I've had like some serious situations happen, and music was like the one thing that kind of guided me out of that and put me where I needed to be. I mean, it brought me here to New York. If you can get one thing out of that, is that, you know, find your passion. It doesn't have to be music, but just find your passion. Because I feel like that thing that sits in here that gets you excited, like right here, is the thing that's going to propel you to where you need to be. So, yeah, man. Here I am. Terminus Studios, Alto Music, some other stuff. You know, been on tour, opened up for Charlie Wilson, Legacy, Tank, Cameo, Sugar Hill Gang, Voicemen, performed in front of 15,000 people before. Yeah, all of that from that $30 mic. So I think it's kind of cool.